As is the case with new technologies and things that are all over the horizon and into the future a bit, ARC decided we need to start covering this whole area of smart cities and smart infrastructure and everything about that. It's been going on around us for a while, and obviously there are some regions of the world that are way ahead in this space. But as is often the case, people, even like attending this forum, probably haven't figured out that sometimes some of us will jump over and be out on the bleeding edge, so to speak. So we decided at ARC that we need to cover this. So I expect that as people become aware of the technology, become aware of the ramifications of how this is going to affect how they live and how the global population, the demographics of the world is moving that way. And all of a sudden, as is often the case, everyone pays attention immediately. But we're sort of forging ahead here. So this is going to be fun. We've got a lot of really cool stuff to cover. So I'm just going to try to make this relatively brief because I want to give as much time as I can to our speakers. But I want to cover the topic a little bit, and I'll introduce our speakers. So, as I said, what's driving this? I mean, it's right on top of us. It's happening right now. But people are moving into the cities faster than any time in history. Call it what you want. Call it the demographics of the world, how it's changing, and there's a lot of factors involved in this. But the fact of it is that the UN estimates, and I think that 50% is probably a little conservative, it's probably more like 60%, of the world's population will be in cities in 30 years. And that's just around the corner. You know, this basic concept of the smart city is rooted in planned urban development. You know, that's the unglamorous part of it. I mean, I was listening to the fellow Charles from the city of Orlando yesterday. It was fascinating what they're doing. A city like Orlando has a lot of resources and so forth. So the challenge is going to be for the cities that are going to take in all of this increased population, how they're going to deal with it. You know, so it is still basic urban development at the end of the day. And it will become imperative for the governments and the cities and so forth to consider this planned urbanization going forward. So what is a smart city? So I've kind of defined this as at a kind of a high level here. It's all across the design, construct, operate, maintain life cycle, quite honestly. So it's all about designing and building and managing. You have to take in all those factors. So we might be, it might be a situation where we're upgrading brownfield existing infrastructure and so forth, which is probably initially, that'll be a lot of it right there. But it's also going to be about planning and designing completely new infrastructure and completely new buildings and completely new living spaces and so on as we go forward. So it's an effective integration of physical, digital, and human systems. And I'm going to talk about the people factor here a fair amount because that's really important here. And we want to build a smart city, you know, intelligent systems. It's connected, it's safe, and sustainable. And it's going to be driven by next generation technologies, and this is what I'm going to cover as quickly as I can here briefly. But and then again, once we've built these smart cities, we have to manage them. We have to manage the physical assets and the buildings that we've created, and we have to be able to manage them just as intelligently as the systems that we've built. And we're going to use BIM tools for all of the above. So BIM is an important aspect of this, and now BIM has been around, building information management, but it's much, much more than just a repository for 3D models anymore. It is a complete life cycle. It is everything from conceptual design to the detailed design through the construction, through the 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, to the projects and so forth of the construction, the logistics, and then it's about going through the end of life recycling, demolition, renovation, starting all over again. Now BIM connects all of that together in a life cycle perspective. And there are tools and solutions at every phase of this, from design through construction, smart construction, through the maintenance and operations and so forth. So some of the current technologies that are enabling this digital, we talk about the digital enterprise. The digital enterprise is going to be integral to the smart city. The smart city is going to be a digital enterprise in its essence. So all of these things that we're currently talking about in terms of this whole digitization thing that's going on, and the IT and the OT convergence, are going to be used in building and managing a smart city. The big data and the predictive analytics, understanding all the elements across that life cycle. And of course, information infrastructure. As Charles from the city of Orlando said, the number one thing you start with is an information infrastructure, and that is truly the case. You have to be able to connect everything together from an information perspective. Asset management, the Internet of Things, the digital twin, all those concepts come into play here because you're managing a huge array of infrastructure, of buildings, everything that makes up all the components of a smart city. Mobility, of course. How do you move people around? This is what it really comes down to. How do we move people? Someone go back here a second. And then, of course, the actual technologies like GIS, geospatial, scanning technologies, photometrics, virtual reality environments. We're going to see a lot of that today, right now, and how important this is going to be in terms of visualizing the vision of the smart city, of actually going from the virtual to the physical. So the elements of a smart city are going to be a digital backbone, of course. All elements of the city have to be connected. You have to have mobility centers, connected assets, smart buildings. This is all tied together. Intelligent infrastructure itself, of course, that means transportation, the automated connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles. You already see a lot of some cities are much better at this and ahead of the curve here, but central travel access to rail, air, and enabling the connected traveler, but just moving people around. And then, this is the important part, it has to be citizen-centric. Because at the end of the day, that last bullet down there can be the most important thing of all, the quality of life. If you're going to be putting over half of the world's population, the global population, in these huge urban centers, you're going to have a quality of life for the people there because they're all going to be there. So it's really, really important. And this is one of the really important aspects of planning the smart city. It has to be citizen-centric. So planning the smart city. So these are some of the things, these are some of the technologies right now that cities are using. We're talking about the edge devices, the smart IoT, all this stuff. We have this technology. It's happening right now, and it's going to have to be implemented as part of the smart city. Smart energy. Guys, we've been talking about this for quite a while. It's tough building smart grids. We've seen the challenges when we listened to the gentleman from Duke Energy. But this has to be taken to move forward to the smart city of tomorrow. The smart energy has to be taken on in a massive scale. Civic clouds, smart transportation, we covered a little bit of that, and then smart data. All of this infrastructure, all of these buildings, all of these transportation centers, every street lamp, every camera, CCTV, everything that's out there is going to be generating massive amounts of data. And we have to be able to manage it, aggregate it, analyze it, and then do something actionable with it that contributes to what the smart city is all about. And obviously, we're going to be using, the smart city of tomorrow is going to be run by AI. Maybe that sounds a little too big brother, but it is the only way it's going to happen. People sitting at a control panel aren't going to be capable of running the smart city of tomorrow. Maybe a plant here and there, but not the city. It's going to have some machines help. So building a smart city, this is BIM. This is at the heart of it right now. 3D design tools, designing the smart buildings and the infrastructure with the amazing tools we have. We're going to see a good demonstration of that shortly. The smart construction tools. Cities have to be able to afford to build their infrastructure in their cities. It has to be cost effective. The projects have to be completed on time and in budget and on budget and so forth. So we need a lot of good smart construction tools to do this. 3D virtual simulation tools, virtually visualizing and mapping the physical city before it's built. We're going to see that. We're going to see that next. And then, of course, building the smart infrastructure itself. Everything's going to be monitored. Roads, bridges, we're going to be monitoring every piece of that infrastructure. So there's a lot of elements. I know this is a little bit of an eye chart here, but there's a tremendous amount of elements to this new smart city. There's energy, there's alternative energies, there's smart houses, smart buildings, there's smart infrastructure, there's smart rail systems, there's smart people moving systems. It's all tied together. And in one, I mean, the term smart city is an understatement, I think, in this particular case. So looking out into what we might see. So AI, as I said, AI and machine learning will need that to process the vast amounts of data that's coming in, as I just said, from the building and infrastructure and all the sensors out there. Everything's going to be connected. You're going to have that. These cities of the future are going to be, we're not in an agriculture anymore in the sense of culture as a, agriculture supplying the major urban areas. The cities themselves will be producing their own food in the cities, in the city of the future. We'll have whole buildings dedicated to stack farms. You're starting to see this a little bit in some of the big urban areas. But this is going to cut down on things like actually shipping and moving in the logistics of moving food around from where it's produced to where it's consumed. And just things that you're going to become part of daily life. Drones everywhere. Pizza to parcel delivery. Everything's going to be just flown in. They're going to be everywhere. They're going to be monitoring safety, infrastructure, traffic, people movement, everything. Security, huge. Autonomous vehicles. Yeah, they're going to be on the street, but they're going to be in the air too. They're going to be flying around. And even things like hyperloops. These things they're being developed right now. Elon Musk and Tesla are working on there's a big project. There are several other projects going on. It is not out of the, we'll probably see this in the future, moving people and commerce, moving that commerce between these large major hubs. I don't know if rail is going to support that, and it's slow. I mean, we're talking right now, they're talking 350 miles an hour, 400 miles an hour plus, and they're probably going to, their plans are to push that up to 700. That's as fast as a commercial airliner.